8 months into my marriage, I stood in a doorway in Moscow, holding 12 red roses, and watched my mother-in-law's face turn completely white. I thought I was being romantic. I had just done something so wrong that nobody in that apartment could look at me. And this is me 4 months earlier, sitting on a wooden bench in 100-degree heat, in a small, hot room, being gently beaten with a bundle of birch branches by a man named Sergei, who was, at that moment, my new uncle, and who was, at that moment, extremely happy. My name is Ben. 3 years ago, I married a Russian woman, and I did not marry a person. I married a rule book. Nobody gave me the rule book, and every single rule I learned by breaking it, loudly, in front of her entire family. This is everything nobody warned me about. The slippers, the drafts, the toasts, the potato field I did not know I owned. And at the end, the flowers. Because those 12 roses almost ended my marriage in the first 90 seconds of meeting her mother. Stay for that one. The first thing that hits you is not the cold. It's the faces. I landed, I walked through that airport, and I smiled at people the way I have smiled at people my entire life. And they looked at me the way you look at a man who is about to ask you for money. I asked Katya quietly, "Is everyone here angry with me?" She said, "No." "Why?" I said, "Nobody is smiling." And she said the sentence that rearranged my entire brain. She said, "Why would they? They don't know you." And here is the thing I am not supposed to say as an American. She's right. Our smile is not happiness. It's a receipt. It's a little tax we pay each other so nobody has to feel anything. I smiled at strangers for 34 years, and I never once meant it. Say what you want in the comments. I know I'm right, because here, a smile is currency. Nobody hands it out for free. But when you finally earn one, when a Russian person actually smiles at you, it lands like a punch. That's a real thing given to you on purpose. I have never been paid a bigger compliment in my life. So they warmed up to me, slowly, over months. And the exact moment I thought I was accepted, I walked into her mother's apartment. And I made it 4 steps, 4, before somebody screamed, "Shoes!" My shoes were still on. In America, you walk into a house, you keep your shoes on, nobody dies. Here, walking into a home with your shoes on is not rude, it is not impolite, it is violence. Against the floor and against the family. And everybody in that hallway felt it. And then, before I could apologize, a pair of slippers appeared. Not my slippers, guest slippers. There is a permanent stockpile of guest slippers in every Russian home, waiting for guests who have not been born yet. And they always, always fit wrong. Then I tried to shake her uncle's hand through the doorway. And 4 people said no at the same time, in the same tone, like a choir that had rehearsed. You do not shake hands across a threshold. Ever. I asked why. Nobody knew. Everybody was certain. Same with whistling. I whistled once, in the kitchen, while making tea. Katya's mother turned around so fast I hurt her neck. Whistling inside the house means you will have no money. I said, "That's not how economies work." She said, "Then don't whistle." I have not whistled indoors in 3 years. And the strangest one. When you leave for a trip, everybody sits down, in silence, on their bags, for 10 seconds, for the road. I thought it was insane until the first time it made me miss a flight. And then the second time it made me remember my passport. And I was writing all of it down. Every rule. which is exactly why what I did later with the flowers is unforgivable. But all of this was just the doorway. The real danger in a Russian home is the air. Here is a scientific fact you did not know. Moving air is trying to kill you. Not cold air, moving air. A window open on one side of the apartment and a door open on the other creates a corridor of death, and every Russian person can feel it enter the building. I sat on a windowsill once. Her mother crossed a room in under a second and physically lifted me off it and told me, with total sincerity, that I would never have children. Cold surfaces, concrete steps, marble benches, all of them, apparently, are aimed directly at my future family. I coughed once in November. Once. I said the word cough out loud. That was my mistake. Within 9 minutes, I had a hat on my head, scarf around my throat, mustard in my socks, a jar of honey, and a mug of something that tasted like a forest floor. Nobody asked me if I wanted any of it. And the thing that makes me insane is that it works. Every time. Every single time. I have not been properly sick in 3 years. I don't know if it's the honey, or the mustard, or the pure force of a woman deciding that you will not be ill today. I have stopped asking. So they kept me alive, aggressively. But keeping me alive is not the same thing as keeping me comfortable. Because after the hat and the honey comes the table, and nothing in my life prepared me for the table. The table does not have a size. It has an ambition. Salads with mayonnaise, pickles, herring under a coat, which is a real dish, and yes, the coat is beetroot. Bread, more bread, fish, meat. And this is before the food arrives. That was all appetizers. I ate like a man who wanted to be liked. I cleared my plate completely, which in my country means that was excellent, thank you. Her mother looked at my empty plate and refilled it. Because in her country, an empty plate means I am still hungry. So I left a little bit, which in my country means I'm full. Her mother saw the food I left and asked Katya in Russian, quietly, if I didn't like it. There is no correct plate. The plate is a trap. The plate has always been a trap. And then the sentence. The sentence every foreign husband learns first. Taimi, chivo, ni yale. You haven't eaten anything. Sir, I have eaten for 4 hours. I have eaten past the point of dignity. I am, structurally, 80% potato salad. And I want to be very clear about something. This is not food. This is a language. Nobody in that family has ever said, I love you, out loud, not once, not to anybody. But there has never been a single second where I did not know exactly how they felt about me. It was on the plate. So I stopped fighting the food. I surrendered. And the moment I surrendered, they handed me a glass. And that, my friends, is where the real rules begin. Because you don't drink here. You are given permission to drink. And it comes with a speech. I raised my glass and I drank, alone, in total silence. 9 people watched me do it. You do not drink until somebody says something. Not a toast like ours, not cheers, not here's to Friday. A speech. With a beginning, a middle, and a point. Her uncle stood up. And he spoke for 4 minutes. About his father. About the winter he was 9. About what family means when a road is closed. He finished. Everyone drank. And he sat down like nothing had happened. And I understood about 1/3 of the words and all of the meaning. That was toast number 1 of the evening. And I'll say the thing I'm not supposed to say. We need 6 beers to tell each other something true. They do it sober, standing up in front of 9 relatives. We drink to get loud. They drink to say the things nobody says sober. And nobody at that table was drunk. That's the part nobody believes. Rules. You never put the empty bottle back on the table, it goes on the floor. The man at the table pours, and you never pour across someone's arm. And you never refuse the third toast, because the third toast is for her grandfather and for everyone who used to sit at that table. You stand up for that one. You don't clink glasses for that one. Nobody explains it to you, you just watch and learn. I learned the rules. All of them. And I got confident. Which is exactly when this country waits, quietly, to teach you that there is an entire second rule book. And this one is not about people. It's about luck. 11 toasts that night. Odd number. I did not know yet that this country counts everything. And it starts with a black cat that ruined a Tuesday. We left the apartment. Halfway to the car, Katya realized she forgot her phone. So we went back. And when we came back through that door, she stopped me, turned me around, and made me look in the mirror. Because going back means bad luck. And the mirror cancels it. I said, "Do you actually believe this?" She said, "No." And then she made me do it anyway. That is the entire relationship between Russian people and superstition. Nobody believes any of it. Everybody does all of it. Absolutely nobody is willing to test what happens if you don't. The list is endless. Don't sit at the corner of a table if you want to get married. Don't hand anything sharp directly, put it down first. Don't celebrate a birthday early, ever, under any circumstances. Don't step over a person lying on the floor, or they stop growing. Nobody in that room was still growing. And my favorite, if you are about to do something important, an exam, an interview, a flight, nobody says good luck. They say the opposite. They say neither fluff nor feather. And you have to answer to the devil. If you say thank you, you've ruined it. I don't know who we're hiding from. I have stopped asking questions in this house. So I stopped whistling. I stopped sitting on cold stone. I look in mirrors like a lunatic. I thought I had passed the test. And then, in May, Katya said 7 words that changed my entire summer. She said, "This weekend we are going to the dacha." I want you to understand what I thought a dacha was. I thought country house, weekend, wine on a porch, maybe a lake. What a dacha actually is a small wooden building standing in the middle of a piece of land that has expectations of you. When you marry a Russian woman, you do not only marry her family, you inherit a potato field. And that field does not care that you have a job or a back or an opinion. In spring, you plant. In autumn, you dig. That is not a tradition. That is a contract. I asked why we don't just buy potatoes. There are potatoes in the shop. 9 people looked at me, not angry, worse, disappointed. Her grandmother said something I did not understand, and Katya translated it as, "Shop potatoes are not ours." That's it. That's the whole argument. And it's unbeatable. And then, at the end of the day, you sit outside on a plastic chair, everything hurts. The smoke from the grill is going straight into your eyes, and somebody hands you tea. And there is absolutely no phone signal anywhere. And I understood, for the first time in my adult life, what quiet is. 2 months later, I would ruin all of this with a bouquet. But first, Then the sun went down, the mosquitoes arrived, my back locked, and her uncle Sergei put a hand on my shoulder and said the words I now hear in my nightmares. He said, "Ben, the banya is ready." The banya is a small wooden room heated to a temperature that has no business existing outside of industrial equipment. You sit in it, on purpose, for fun, with your relatives. And the first thing they hand you is a hat, a felt hat, in a room that is already trying to cook you. Then they beat you with a tree. That's not a joke, and it's not an exaggeration. A bundle of birch branches, soaked in hot water, and a family member you have known for 4 months brings it down on your back with genuine enthusiasm and real love in his heart. And when you are convinced you are about to become a headline, they walk you outside and they empty a bucket of ice water over your head. A whole bucket from above. And I screamed in a register I have never reached before and will never reach again. And then, 10 seconds later, I felt incredible. I felt 22 years old. 3 rounds, that's the standard. Hot, cold tea, hot, cold tea. And somewhere in the second round, half dead, wearing a felt hat, sitting next to a man I could barely talk to, I realized I had been let in. You do not take a stranger to the banya. That's not a place you take a guest. So by December, I thought I understood this family. I really did. And then, on the 31st of December, I watched an entire country stop breathing at exactly the same second. In America, Christmas is the big one, and New Year's Eve is an excuse to be somewhere loud with people you don't like. Here it is reversed, and it is not close. New Year is the holiday, the tree, the lights, the family, the gifts, all of it. On the 31st, there is a salad. It is called Olivier. It is potatoes, eggs, pickles, peas, sausage, and mayonnaise, and it is made in a bowl the size of a car tire, and it is eaten for 8 consecutive days. I have made jokes about that salad. I no longer make jokes about that salad. I dream about that salad in June. And here's the part that broke me. At midnight, everyone stops. The television is on. There's an address nobody listens to a word of. Then a clock strikes, and the whole country, the entire country, at the same time, makes a wish and drinks. And you can feel it in the building, through the walls. And I'll say the third thing I'm not supposed to say. Everyone online will tell you, Russian women are quiet, obedient, traditional. I have never heard a funnier lie in my life. My wife makes every decision in this house. Her mother makes every decision in that one. The men plant the potatoes. The women run everything. I have not chosen a piece of furniture, a holiday, or a doctor since the day we married. And then, on the 2nd of January, in a kitchen full of leftovers, Katya told me that in 3 weeks we were driving to her grandmother's town, the whole family, and that this time I should bring the flowers myself. And I said, obviously, I'm not an idiot. So I went to a flower shop, and I did what any man from my country does. I got the big one, the impressive one, the one that says, I am serious about your daughter. 12 red roses. 12. A dozen. That's what a dozen is. That's the unit flowers come in. The florist looked at me for 1 extra second. 1. And I noticed it, and I ignored it, because I was busy being magnificent.
Ladies and gentlemen, in Russia, you give an even number of flowers to the dead. Even numbers are for funerals. Only odd numbers are for the living.
I did not know that. Nobody told me that. And so I arrived at her mother's door on the most important afternoon of my relationship, and I handed a funeral arrangement to the woman who had been feeding me for a year. She took them, she held them, and she did not know what to do with her face. Nobody said anything for maybe 6 seconds, which is a very long time. And then her grandmother, 91 years old, sitting in a chair by the window, started laughing. Not politely, genuinely, until she had to hold onto the arm of the chair. And that broke it. Everyone laughed. Her mother laughed. And then she took one single rose out of the bouquet, put it aside, and put the other 11 in water. 11. Odd. Fixed. And she said something to Katya, and Katya wouldn't translate it for 2 years. She told me last year. Her mother had said, "He doesn't know anything." But he came. And that is the whole thing. That is the entire country in 5 words. Nobody expects you to know. They only need to see that you showed up, and that you're willing to be corrected in front of everybody. 3 years in, I take my shoes off at my own front door in America now. I close windows before somebody feels the draft. I count flowers in the shop like a man defusing a bomb. 1, 3, 5, 7, never, ever 12. And there is one flower in this house I am not allowed to count. And that single rose her mother took out of the bouquet? Katya dried it. It's in a book on a shelf in our kitchen, next to a photograph from that afternoon, where all 4 of us are laughing, and I look like a man who has just been told something terrible. People ask me if it was hard. It was. It still is. I get things wrong every week. But I have never in my life been so thoroughly, aggressively, non-negotiably taken care of by people who would never say the words out loud. That's not coldness. That's just a different accent. And before anybody starts, this is one family, not 140 million people. Next time, Japan, where I am going to find out that I have been apologizing wrong for 3 years. And if you're sitting there thinking, my country would break him in a week, prove it. Comments. Go. Tell me the one rule I'd get wrong on day 1.